Hey guys, Funky Like Feathers here. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. If you've been here before, welcome back. And I'll say the same to myself. It's been a minute. Obviously, I haven't made a video since like last year, but here we go. So I'm just going to tell you guys the books that I am currently reading right now. I'm not going to go through the books that I've already read this year because that's going to take way too stinking long. I've read... oh goodness, how many? Let's check. I have read 43 books so far this year. I am currently reading 8 books, and I still have some on my table and tons on my TBR. So yeah, here we go. So let's start with, these are in no particular order, okay? So first, The Westing Game. I just started reading this yesterday. I'm already halfway through. There are less than 200 pages in this thing. Because I'm going to be reading The Inheritance Games, which is right up there, I was told to read this by a friend of mine. And I have to say, solid decision. So this was published in 1978, and it's kind of like Inheritance Games meets And Then There Were None. So you've got... this mysterious person who doesn't exist invites these 6 people to live into this new building, and you're trying to kind of figure out why, what's the deal. And then there's a really old guy who dies, and then he leaves puzzles for all of these people to work through to figure out who killed him and then who's going to get the inheritance. That's kind of the premise here. I have to say, it's very interesting. It is, like I said, a quick read. I read half of this in one day, and I thought I was going to sit down and read the rest of it, but I ended up picking a couple of my other books up and reading them as well. So, easy to read in one day, obviously. I'm just one of those people who will read multiple things. So, yeah. Another book that I am currently reading is I am rereading The Thunderhead. We read this in the evening with my kid. She loved the series, and now we've got my husband hooked on it. For good reason. I love the society that you get in the Scythe trilogy. This is by Neil Shusterman. Amazing series. This is perfect for, I would really say middle to high school grade students. I mean, eat it up. It's great. This one, middle grade and higher. I mean, anybody, because, the dude does die and they talk about, things picking the eyeballs out of the sockets. And, that's kind of funny, but whatever. Some people might get uncomfortable. This one, there's a fade to black scene. I know that happens at the end of it, but amazing series. I love the dystopian society that we get here. The Scythes are the only people who can kill anybody, but they're called glean. So if somebody dies, it's called a gleaning. Other than that, you are rendered deadish and then go to a revival center and they bring you back. But there's a whole bunch of stuff in the society that is just amazing. There's political intrigue without it being super politics, if that makes sense. You get into the situation without trying to figure out who's who and all that kind of stuff. Also because I'm very color coordinated, mentally, just colors are what click with me. It works well that all of the sides are kind of known by the colors of their robes as well. So it's interesting to kind of be able to follow along with who's who and everything. So definitely suggest reading this one. I'm also reading Glow right now on my Kindle. Now, I got suckered into this series by accident because the first book was free on Kindle The first book was free on Kindle Unlimited and came up as a suggested read. And then I ended up going into the next one because they weren't really very long books. And now I'm on book 4, and I thought that was going to be the last book. But the day it was released, I found out about book 5. Seriously? And this book, Glow, is actually 700 something pages. So it's not short. I've been suckered into reading it now. But pretty much the premise is that the main character's name is Oren, or that's how I pronounce it, Auren. And she is made of gold, and she can turn things gold as well. So it's kind of everything that happens with her and the king, Midas, of course, who she kind of, latches herself onto. Now, the theme of the book's kind of changed too, because the opening scene in the first book you get is nothing like that happens really later on in the book series. There are random scenes, but there's nothing that's like that intense. But you kind of deal with the emotional turmoil of the character. Yes, she gets very frustrating at sometimes, but for some reason, I am now stuck in this stinking series. So yeah, just wanted to end. So then I'm also reading 101 Essays That Will Change the Way You Think. This name card is not usually on the cover. My kid made a sticker. It says, "My pronouns are your majesty." So I've been reading this book. I have to say, it is kind of interesting. There's actually a lot more lists in this book as opposed to like just regular essay style writings. So there is a lot of bullet points and a lot of numbers, and even some of these kind of come up, and I mean, I'm kind of annotating as I go along, but if you have read The Secret by Rhonda Byrne or watched the movie or listened to the audiobook or anything, I really think you could probably skip this one. Honestly, it's a lot of the same topics and the same kind of themes of like taking responsibility for what it is that happens in your life and making decisions and everything. And the way that the author writes in here, I feel like she hasn't had any life experiences that are there are certain things in life that are not totally within your control, especially when you're a kid, right? So if you grew up with any kind of like serious childhood trauma or abuse when you were a kid, you're going to want to argue with this author. I can tell you right now, because the way that she writes, there's a lot of things where I'm like, I feel like you're lacking some life experience in these areas, because there are some times where that just that's just not really an option. So, and things like, natural disasters, like we had our house flooded twice. Like there's nothing I personally did to make that happen. Like I can't cause that to happen. What I can do is, know how to respond to that. But stuff like that, just, things to keep in mind when you're writing, Brianna. Keep it in mind. All right. Moving on. So I've been removing all the dust jackets from all my books. Let it go. Let it happen. This is The Recovery Agent by Janie Ivanovich. And okay, so the main character's name is Gabriella. We got introduced to Gabriella in book 28 from the Stephanie Plum series. If you loved the Stephanie Plum series, I'm not sure how you're going to like this one. Just saying, because I feel like it's just Stephanie Plum in the jungle at this point. I do. I haven't read too much of it. I mean, I'm still kind of in the beginnings of it, but that's kind of the tone that I'm getting. Gabriella and Stephanie have a lot in common. However, Gabriella is just a little bit more on the badass scale, whereas Stephanie Plum works a little bit more with luck. So I can't quite make a call on this yet, but I don't know. I've also been reading Malice, and this one's going well. I'm more than halfway through on this one. Main character's name is Alice with a Y, and she is, I don't even know how to pronounce it, Vila. So there's her style of magic, and then there are the Graces, and they have like all of the pretty types of magic that can make you pretty and make you have a nice voice, and her magic doesn't quite work that way. Hers works the opposite. So she can kind of hex people and curse people kind of things. And she's trying to figure out what to do. At the same time, we do get the Sleeping Beauty Aurora character in there, who is trying to break her curse, because apparently her two older sisters, the day you come of age, if you have not met your true love, you die. So yeah. So she's trying to, and she ends up making friends with Aurora, and then their friendship is kind of blossoming. I'm thinking I know what's going to happen. And then there's another book called Misrule that is the second book in this duology. So we'll see how that goes. But so far, so good. I'm really liking this one. Okay, this next one. This book I am reading for a book club, a local book club. And when I first heard about this book, I was like, oh my goodness, I already love it. And then I started reading it, and I realized it was not a narrative like I thought. It's not fiction. It's not historical fiction. It's nonfiction. It's The Library Book by Susan Orlean. So this one actually is about a real event that took place where the Los Angeles library was burned down, or not entirely, but a large portion of it was burned, and there was like hundreds of thousands of books ruined or destroyed, which is a terrible, terrible thing. I was like, am I going to cry during this book? However, I have not really been able to make it into this because I just can't get hooked into it. Now, when it starts and you're reading about her relationship with libraries and her relationships with reading, it's romantically written, and you sit and you're like, oh my goodness, I totally connect to this. The hard part is that the entire book is written in that same kind of style. So it is a little laborious to work through just because of the way that she's writing. It's a lot of words to say a simple thing. And because it's all based on one day, not even just one day, like one event. It's a lot of words to write about one event. So I'm used to very fast-paced books. So I'm wondering how this is really going to go. I've looked up reviews on this book. Other people seem to love it. I'm trying. Okay? I'm trying. I'm going to see how much more I can get into this. We shall see. Finally, the other book that I'm currently reading right now is My Contrary Mary. I love these authors. I think they're hilarious. They're laid back. They are contemporary. It is completely fictional history, and they kind of even put apologies at the beginning of the book. There are more of them back here that you can see. So these are the same ladies who brought you My Plain Jane, My Lady Jane, My Contrary Mary, and then we have Calamity Jane. And now I just found out today I just found out that there's actually one more. And let me see what it is. My Imaginary Mary is the new one that is coming out on August 2nd, which I am so excited about. I totally want to read it. Yeah, gonna definitely pick that one up. But this one, it works with Verities versus Ethians, and Verities are people who are just human, and Ethians are people who can change into animal form. And this follows Mary, Queen of Scots. So that's what you're working with, is that kind of background story. And the fact that people can change forms, and the fact that she's dealing with Francis, whom she grew up with, but now she has to marry him, and now they're going, and she's trying to go find her mom, who stayed in Scotland, but is mom going to be there? What's happening? Who's an animal? Who's not? Who's going to get their head chopped off? Who's not? And at the same time, you get some fake history thrown in there, which I love it. It's very laid back. So those are the current books right now. That's not even what I'm going to be reading. That's what I am currently reading. So I'm working my way through those. It's going well, right? But there's still more books that I want to read. I just got a book the other day, actually, for the library book club that I'm going to be doing. The library book, ironically, is not for the book club at the library. It's for a book club at a bookstore. The book I'm reading for the library book club is called Bewilderment by this Powers dude. I'm not even quite sure how to explain this book. It's weird. Like, there's a kid who's sick. The dad is trying to help him, and then he ends up transferring some of his consciousness to the kid. I don't know. I don't know. Okay. I don't. And then while all that's going on, I'm actually rereading, which I'm currently, it's on my, okay. So I haven't added it to my Goodreads, but I am currently rereading A Court of Thorns and Roses, because I'm trying to annotate as I go through and figure out all of the connections with everything, and, you know, how all this stuff fits together. So I'm trying to build up the magic system. I know you can't see it because it's all underlined stuff. See? So I'm rereading that right now. See, they're back there, and then there's Crescent City, and then Throne of Glass is stacked up back here, and there's more of them over there. So I have a little bit of reading that I'm doing. But yeah, if there's something I need to add to my list, let me know down in the comments, because, you know, the never-ending TBR. I do have other books that I haven't read yet. Hello, Priory of the Orange Tree. But working on those. So let me know what it is that you're currently reading. Let me know what your best books of the year have been so far, because yeah, I love seeing suggestions, and especially for different age brackets, because I like reading YA, I like reading adult, I like reading middle grade as well. It's all fun stuff. I'm dipping my toes more into some nonfiction stuff because I've been reading some of that this year too. Loving all of it. So leave your suggestions down below. I would love to hear from you guys, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye, you guys.